Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Commander Clash podcast, where the Commander Clash crew talks all things Commander. And this week, we're going to be talking about the best X spells in the Commander format. But before we get into our X spells, we got a crew to introduce, and we have a special crew this week. Phil had a bit of a disaster with some pipes bursting all over his Magic cards this morning, and he is desperately trying to fix that. So, filling in for Phil, we have Morgan today. How's it going, Morgan?
Doing better than Phil.
I think we all are,
sure.
hopefully.
So press F in the chat for Phil. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about our X's.
That is like the ultimate Magic player nightmare, I think, is you wake up one morning and your pipes burst all over your collection, and that's like, oh my God. It gives me a shiver down my spine just thinking about it.
Terrible.
But we got another co-hosting, Krim. How you doing today, Krim? Are all your Magic cards still intact and dry this morning?
Ideally, yes.
Okay,
I'm not. Good. Ideally, yes. That's all I can say. Other than that, it's going well, and there's been a lot of X spells in my time of playing Magic, and I can never really pick which ones to talk about today. So I'm excited to see what we all talk about here.
Yeah, we got some good ones. But before we get to that, we got one more co-host in Tomer. Budget Commander. I almost said Krim again. How you doing today, Tomer?
I am slowly turning into Krim in terms of my commander preferences. So
I know. You're like a season away from being a Chaos player. You're almost
I'll become
there.
Krim Jr. Yeah, as soon as I become Grixis.
For years, people have been joking he's one bad day away from a Chaos player, and I think this is the season where it happens.
Is it right? Like I just
add
black.
So
more color.
So close.
But yeah, I love X spells. There's a lot more than I expected when we sat down to brainstorm, and I'm like, I have 6 that I could talk about that I love and use regularly. So yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
There's some good ones to talk about today, and we're going to jump into that in just a minute. But first, we got some sponsors. Our show today is brought to you by Foil Armor. Do you have problems with your foils curling? Well, Foil Armor is the ultimate solution to flattening your foils. It's a 2-way humidity pack that you simply put inside an airtight container with your foils, and Foil Armor will absorb and release moisture, making your cards completely flat. Put a pack into your storage box to keep your cards flat forever, and you can head over to foilarmor.com and use the code MTGGoldfish to get 15% off. And our show is also brought to you by Card Conduit, the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. If you ever get tired of the hassles of buy listing, you can skip them with Card Conduit. You can use their curated service to send in as many cards as you want with a buy list value of $1 or more and pay just a 5% service fee. And if you want to do a bit of work, you can use their sorted service where you list and sort your cards in advance and pay just a 2% fee. And either way, you're going to get a detailed report with the results in a fast payment once your order is processed. And you can even get another 10% off by heading over to cardconduit.com/MTGGoldfish. So thank you to our sponsors for supporting the show. And now it's time for the comment of the week. So last week, we talked about the best Commander cards from Tarkir Dragonstorm. And our top comment comes from Ace Focus, something like that. Says, Draco Genius. Is Tomer becoming Seth? apparently we got a Draco Genius out of Draco Genesis. But it was
Draco.
I do have a favorite dragon. I'm not subtle about it, you guys.
Tomer, that's a really big keycap. I didn't know you were into.
I'm deck box collecting now. So yeah.
There you go.
Well, keep leaving your good comments, and maybe you'll be the comment of the week next time. But let's get into our X spells, and I will kick us off today because I think when I think of Commander Clash, there's one X spell that I think of above all, and that has to be Open the Way. So Open the Way, it's a card that no one except us really plays. If you look at EDH Rec, it's 2 or 3% of decks, but it is the ultimate Commander Clash staple. Double green and X for a sorcery that says X can't be greater than the number of players in the game. So you can cast it from X of 0, I guess, technically, not that you'd want to do that, up to X of 4 in a Commander game. And then it says reveal the top cards of your library, and to reveal X lands, put those cards on the battlefield tab. The rest go on the bottom of your library in a random order. So as far as I'm concerned, this is maybe the best ramp spell in Casual Commander. The fact that you can cast this from anything from, or let's say Greenland ramp spell. It's probably not better than Soul Ring or whatever, but it's one of the best ramp spells. I saw Tomer's eyes when I said that, and I was like, I better clarify that a little bit. But it's a very good ramp spell. The trick of this is you can cast it from X of 1, and it's kind of like a bad 3-mana ramp spell, but the real power is you get up to 6 mana, and you get to ramp 4 lands. And most importantly, it's not basic lands. Because you're just putting the top lands of your deck into play, you don't really have to play a ton of basics like you're playing Cultivate or Solemn Simulacrum, cards like that. You can overload on all these sweet utility lands, and this can be putting Cabal Coffers and Urborg into play, or Thespian Stage and Dark Depths, or Field of the Dead, whatever busted utility lands are playing. So I think this is just an ultra staple in green decks. I play this in every green deck. It's the first ramp spell I add. Doesn't matter if I'm mono green or 5 colors. I'm just playing Open the Way every time. But what do you guys think of this? Maybe I'm higher on it than the rest of you. Do you guys play Open the Way all the time?
Richard's not here, Seth.
I know.
You're outnumbered.
Yeah,
No.
Oh, I got Morgan though. I got Morgan.
Yeah,
right.
I've been convinced. I have it in most, if not all, of my green decks, and I have for at least a year, maybe longer. I think this card is the truth because I am kind of a utility land believer. So I don't go like the complete Richard move of like I have 5 colored pips in my 1 color deck. Like that's crazy, but
Yeah.
I like utility lands in my deck, and then I'm really high on fixing, like Crim. I like having a bunch of dual lands. So the fact that this kind of fixes you as well. I would say the one slight against it is because you're not searching. If you really want specific fixing, it's not doing that for you the way that like a Farseek or a Nature's Lore would do. So it does have that against it, but the upside is like it can hit anything. It can hit your fetch lands. It can hit your fetchable lands that you would have found anyway. It can hit your bounce lands. It can hit absolutely anything. And I know that Tomer's mentioned before, I'm sure he'll get into it, that like, well, if you're playing like a bunch of basics and duels, is it really that good? I think it's still good because that's still a huge burst in mana that you're getting, a ton of extra mana you're going to have. And you're still probably going to have like, your bounce lands or a reliquary tower. Even if you're like on a budget mana base, you still have something that you're like, ooh, that's neat. So I'm high on it.
Yeah, I mean, even from a budget perspective, right? You're still ramping 4 lands for 6, and I can't really think of other cards that do that, right? Like, am I missing something? Are there other cards that put that many lands into play for around that amount of mana? I know there's like, if you have a creature of 1,000,000 power, I can. But every time I see someone try to play that, we just kill the creature
outlands.
And then they cry and don't get any land. So
Wow, you don't have to add over like that. But
I don't believe that at all. I just like I don't know. Like it's fine, and like I guess if you have like a $2,000 budget mana base where you just don't have basic lands to ramp out or whatever, it's also fine. Like Morgan said, like you can't find specific stuff, so it can't mana fix for you. But also just like it's a slow ramp card, and usually the things when I want to ramp, it's usually turns 1 to 3, and this is like if you cast it before if you don't spend X equals 3 on this, it's just not very good. Like if you do X equals 1, it's a really bad rampant growth. It's kind of awful. And then if you pay X equals 2, it's kind of like an explosive veggie. Like it's like you can say, it could hit any land, sure, but it doesn't get the actual lands you wanted, like the actual fixing. So it's kind of like mid there. So you have to do X equals 3, and it's like, okay, it's good, but it's like, I don't know. I don't think it's like particularly outstanding in any way. Other than if you have like a $2,000 mana base where it's like, yeah, my thing is so much utility. I literally can't even rampant growth. There's no basics because they're too poor for me. Like then it's like fine, sure.
It is,
but I'll take a rampant growth or like a 3 visits or a Farseek over all of these.
It is
things.
A fair point that it's not really early game ramp. So if you're trying to ramp into my 4 mana commander or whatever a turn early, like you're going to be better off with a Nature's Lore or 3 visits or something. But I really value the fact that like even if you're ramping on turn 6 and ramping 4 lands, that's where it sets up the absurd turns of like, I cast a Seagate Restoration and I played more things after drawing with like it just sets up these huge turns. So I actually really like ramping from like 6 up to 10. I think that's actually like incredibly powerful in Commander. So even though it's not going to do the same thing as ramping into your like 4 mana commander, I still think it's kind of busted. But Crim, what do you think? Are you an Open the Way believer now that you're a green player?
Running a Black Panther. That's what the people must know. Do you run a Black Panther? If he does, then I will give it an honest shot.
I had it, and then I kind of took it out. Mostly just because I think at first I would always be like, well, this is great. I get to do this for 6 mana, but I feel like it's always too clunky. It's just too clunky. I don't like for 6 mana, I have to spend like that almost what is that whole turn to get that burst of mana, which is great, don't get me wrong, but I feel like I'd rather be doing something else for 6 mana. So I was on the Open the Way train. Now I've taken it out of my lists that aren't, like pure mono green. Mono green, I think like thrives and like lives off this card because they can get to 6 mana on like turn 3. So, but like more often than not, I just feel like this card kind of sits in my hand and I don't want to cast it. It has the illusion of like X being anything less than 3, or even 4, right? Like it just, I feel like if I'm only doing it for like a total of 4 mana, I'm only getting 2 lands, so that's explosive veggies. And I don't know, it's not good enough for me. I don't know. I think that's just the main issue. It's too clunky.
I wish I had stats
You were that
on this.
close. You were that close to switching me. I was there. I was waiting for Krim. Now that he's on his green ramp arc, I was like, Krim, sell me on it. And he did not.
It's actually kind of funny because I like it. Maybe I still think it's busted, but I think it's least powerful for me in mono green because I have more basic lands and less utility lands. So I feel like it's actually less powerful there. I wish we had stats on this because I feel like if you look at like the last couple seasons of Commander Clash, especially before Richard went out, I feel like whoever resolved and opened the way for 4 had an insanely high win rate. Maybe I'm wrong, but just like objectively, I feel like the win rate of someone who resolves open the way for 4 lands is like very high in our play group. But I don't have data on it.
Is Open the Way that good to where like it's essentially just one really expensive ramp spell, whereas I can build that on a bunch of bodies, and I'd rather do that.
It takes you from like mid-game mana to late-game mana in one turn, which makes you double spell more effectively. It lets you cast your big, clunky, awesome commander cards more effectively. So, and then also like think of all like the cool utility lands. I have a deck that's Jalriel, Voice of Zalfir, the one that lets you like it cares about like creature lands, and like I can only run so much like normal ramp in that deck because so many of the lands are creature lands, so like they're not fetchable in one way, shape, or form. And Open the Way is nuts in decks like that if you have just a bunch of cool utility lands. So I think between that and letting you get to the late game mana at least a couple turns earlier is just insane, no matter how many colors you're playing.
I don't know. I'd rather just play like a loot and play an additional land.
I think like if I'm just drawing cards, like I play Burgeoning and Exploration. I keep bringing these cards up because I do think they're actually insanely busted. But like they have early game value because you can play them turn 1 and get value out of them immediately. And then if you're drawing a lot of cards, which I think just like power creep, everything has card draw attached to it. The more cards you draw, the more often you can continue playing lands off that Exploration and Burgeoning. Like I think that's a true Open the Way. Like I think like Seth and Richard, if they were on the Burgeoning Exploration train, especially how much they love card draw. Well, Seth in particular, I think Seth, if like he just started jamming Exploration and Burgeoning and had those turn 1, I think he'd just be unstoppable. The amount of cards he loves drawing, it's like the perfect combination. I think that'll dwarf Open the Way.
I mean, we've definitely seen those cards pop off if you have them on turn 1. I'm still not sure if you draw them on turn like 6 or 7, if they're in the same range as Open the Way. Like
you're maybe... Mr. Seagate Restoration over here. Like,
yeah, but I want to.
I'm sure you're going to draw more lands.
Yeah, that is true. But the Open Way lets me cast it. But yes, those cards are very, very busted. But let's keep moving on. We got a lot of X spells to get to. Tomer, why don't you give us an X spell that you think is great in Commander?
Okay, Phil's not here, unfortunately, so I decided to honor him and his drowned cards by picking his top pick. Well, hopefully they're not drowned. Hopefully they're okay. But yeah, he put just on the first one, green tutors, just all of them. So I'm going to get a little bit more specific, and I'm going to say there's like 2 in particular that I like. There's a lot I really like. There's Green Sun Zenith, I absolutely love. Finale of Devastation, I absolutely love. But I'm going to give out a shout out to my boy Chord of Calling, which I think is like my favorite out of all of them, even though Finale of Devastation is probably a very close second. Court of Calling is triple green and X. It's an instant and has Convoke, so your creatures can help cast the spell. Each creature you tap while casting the spell pays for 1 or 1 mana of the green of the creature's color. So if you have like a bunch of green creatures on the battlefield, you could just like tap all of them and not pay any mana for this Court of Calling, for example. Search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. I love this card. I love it specifically in go wide decks. Like if you're in like a token strategy, or if you're any like just go wide style creature deck, this card offers you so much flexibility in terms of you could find the right creature at any given time, but also, and I think very importantly, the instant speed allows you to leave your mana up, keep up mana for interaction or whatever, and then if you need to utilize a protection spell or a counter spell or a removal spell or a fog or whatever, you could do that. But if you don't, if there's a green light to drop this down, you Court of Calling, end step before your turn, and bam, you have your creature ready to go and you're fully untapped. And I think that's what kind of like puts it on a next level to me, is like instant speed, very flexible tutoring, and you can Convoke, so you can cast this like essentially for free. But yeah, I think this card's gas.
Very good. Actually, they're all very good. I think it kind of depends on what deck you're playing. If I want Court or Finale, I think the go wide decks, Court is like insane and definitely the best of them. In the like heavy ramp decks, maybe Finale is a little better because you can get the like Crater Hoof mode of being able to overrun too along with tutoring. But really,
I think it's a graveyard too.
And
like,
that's
I always
wild.
look over that fact.
Me
It's
too.
like, oh yeah, you could also just, if your Crater Hoof is in the graveyard, you could just get that. But it is a Crater Hoof. Like if you just spend enough mana on it just becomes Crater Hoof, which is like silly. Green.
Yeah,
green's a good color.
Green is very good at finding creatures. What do you guys think, Krim and Morgan? Where are you at with these cards?
I mean,
Court of Calling specifically being instant speed makes me, every time I see it, I'm like, I should play that more, because in any deck that just has a lot of creatures, it's so much more than just a creature tutor, because it's whatever you need whenever you need it. If like there's if you're like a toolboxy, I have like a toolboxy weenies aggro deck, and this is a card that should be in that deck that's not. You know, you can instant speed, even use your creatures, because Convoke, your creatures don't have to they can still have summoning sickness and you can still tap them down for the Convoke.
Yeah.
So even if you're like, okay, I'm going to play some creatures, pass the turn because they can't attack right now, they still have use. They can go into the Court of Calling to find your card draw engine. You can find like, I don't know, something that like a Reclamation Sage kind of effect if you need to get rid of something scary. You hit something that hits the graveyard. Like there's so many, it's flexible. It's a modal spell that has the illusion of being a creature tutor, but it's really just a modal spell in the right deck. And that part is so fun to me that you can craft your deck to work that way. And the instant speed is really what makes it work. But all of them are cool. But Court of Calling, I think, is the most interesting.
How about you, Krim?
Run it in his Black Panther deck.
That's a question for every card today. Is it in Black Panther?
Krim, do you have other green decks, by the way, or is it just Black Panther?
I have another. I have Teamer Loot.
Oh shit!
Right.
Yeah. I have Teamer Loot. But no, I don't play tutors. I think they're all, so I can't speak fair. To it because I think all tutors are busted and break the philosophy of Commander. So I just don't play them. Right? Like unless it has to be insanely flavorful. I don't even play my Miku tutor. Right? So like I just leave that in the binder. So I guess I agree. I think it's very strong. I think any version, Court of Calling, obviously at instant speed, very good. Being able to Convoke, insane. Lots of green tutors in a color that doesn't really need more help for how much it cheats on resources.
Yeah.
You know, like having now played, you know, I'm trying and you know, I'm seeing how the sausage is made. I'm playing the colors, right? I'm doing all of that. And green does not need tutors, and it is so busted. So I think any and all of them, if you can play them, and if you like that, jam it. Play Worldly Tutor, play whatever.
Not a game changer.
None of those are game changers.
None of these are, yeah.
You could do all the miserable things that you want to do in green. with Tutors. So whichever version of it you want. I now understand why Phil says green Tutors. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe this is why Crim became green because Misery is back on the menu. So he was like,
Yo.
what's more miserable? I'm gonna go
Then
green.
There's
green
nothing
players
more
is green.
miserable than that.
Green.
It's everything I hate. Ramp, Tutor, all in one.
You made a good point about Tutors not really being flavorful for most decks. There's not many Tutors that are really thematic. I hope they do more of that in the future, like the Harbinger cycle, or like the one that tutors up a mercenary, Caterin summons. Like more Tutors like that, I think, would be pretty interesting, because then maybe they actually would feel like flavorful additions. Like if you play Bogart Harbinger in your Goblins deck, it actually feels very flavorful, when Demonic Tutor in your Goblins deck doesn't feel flavorful at all. So maybe they go more that direction with like narrow Tutors that are themed for decks. Like we've kind of
Yeah,
seen in Wrath
more
recently,
Dragon
right? We've seen a lot of
Storm.
Wraths that are like in a certain deck. This Wrath is really thematic. Maybe they do that with Tutors too.
That's why the only deck I have I have 2 Tutors in is my Demons deck, because Demonic Tutor, Demonic Council, and like that's it. That's the only deck I have Demonic Tutor in.
Well, speaking of Crim decks, why don't you hit us with an X spell that you play in your decks, Crim?
Oh, well, it's also in my Demons deck, and any deck that has black. It's Meathook Massacre. I feel like this card is
a good pick.
It's got a price tag. I get that. And it may not seem like, oh, it's super flashy, like I'm playing some game-ending threat in Meathook Massacre, but it will help you stabilize without you noticing, because it's a bunch of little pings and cuts here and there, as our editors, may know.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
God,
Keeping track of that is rough, but it does stabilize you. And it's just, things are going to naturally die in a game. I don't have to be loaded up with a bunch of removal to just like get value off this card. I cast the initial sweep, and because it's also an X spell, I can adjust it to whatever X I need it to be. So it kills, maybe it leaves my highest toughness, leaves my best threat alone, and wipes everything else. And if it picks everything off, I gain a silly amount of life. Also, draining or pinging people for 1 after every one of your creatures dying, that's pretty good as well. No one thinks about it until all of a sudden, oh, we're at 20 life. What happened along the way?
All my life go?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like Meathook Massacre quite a bit. I don't think I like it quite as much as Crim. I haven't gotten to the point where I just play it like Toxic Deluge or something, as like every black deck I have a Meathook Massacre. I especially like it though in any sort of sacrifice deck. It's like super busted. Decks where things are dying all the time. The incidental life gain is really helpful. It does help make up for the fact that it's pretty expensive to be a hard Wrath on some board states, like because you have to pay X to like scale it up with the biggest creature on the battlefield. But the fact that you gain a bunch of life really does help make up for that. So I like it quite a bit, but for me, it's like a little bit below the staple level, I would say.
I'm with Crim. I just keep forgetting that this card exists because it's like $23. So it's just like,
oh, that's
it used
way
to be
cheaper
like
than I thought it was.
until
yeah,
like wasn't it just reprinted in Interstar
it got a
Remastered?
reprint, and the reprint helped a lot. I mean, it helped, like
now I got
Interstar Remastered helped a lot with a lot of cards, but yeah, it's still $23, which is why I just forget about the card. So I would run it if I just remembered it more often.
Yeah, I like it incidentally in like X equals 0 in like sacrifice decks, just because that is just giving you value. The incidental life gain, honestly, often makes or breaks games, because especially if you're like, I'm fetching into a shock land, you do that a couple times over the course of a game, and your life is lower than it necessarily should be because of all the other things you have to keep track of. So just being able to gain a little bit of life over the course of a game is really nice. But auto include in any decks where it is also going to be relatively consistently a Wrath. Like if you're leaning in on Coffers or any of those cards that double your swamps, like that's really good. Or if you're just a Golgari deck and you're going to be able to open the way into making X a lot more. So yeah, I think the price tag is the main thing that holds it back. I haven't picked one up because it was $50 for a long time, but I think in sacrifice decks it's awesome. In like Wrath.deck, where you're going to be killing things a lot anyways, those are really funny. But yeah, also if you're just gonna have a lot of mana consistently, yeah, this card rules.
Well, let's keep moving on. Morgan, it's up to you this time. What do you got for us, X spell wise?
Alrighty, this is a a new-ish card that I feel like doesn't get enough love. This is Worldsoul's Rage. This is from Murders at Karlov Manor, which is why no one remembers it. It's for X, a red, and a green. A sorcery deals X damage to any target. Then you can put up to X land cards from your hand and or graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. So this is another one of those examples where X doesn't have to be a very high number for you to get good value out of it. The damage can go anywhere. Creature, planeswalker, someone's face. The damage can go anywhere, so it's really flexible there. But then if you have a bunch of lands stuck in your hand, boom, get them out a lot faster. You got a bunch of fetch lands or wastelands or strip mines in your graveyard, boom, bring them back. So between not every deck is going to have a bunch of extra lands in their hand or graveyard, and the fact that it's tied to Gruul, it's definitely not as playable in as many decks as a lot of the other cards we're talking about today. But man, if you are a deck that can play this, you absolutely should. I've played it a few times, I've seen it played a few times, and it always puts in a ton of work.
I fully agree with that. I play this in my loot deck.
Yeah.
So yeah, like this card's sweet. Just doing it for 2, sending it somewhere, getting my speed up, things like that. This is a fun card and definitely underappreciated, but it is anchored by Gruul. If this were mono green, obviously yes, but then it wouldn't have the burn. So like this just is a sweet card that's kind of locked behind its colors.
This feels like, for me, like I really like this card in lands-based decks. Like if all you're doing is like heavy land ramp. I see this as like a mid-game, late-game card, not necessarily like a ramp card, but something that, like, if you're playing Lord Woodgrace, for example, you have a full graveyard of lands, you can get them all back at the same time, get like a big field that trigger going. And also, what I really like is it doubles as a win condition. Because, land decks, they can generate a lot of mana. If you do like X equals 15 or something, it's not out of the question to get into the double digits of burn with this ability in the late game. And the fact that it has that flexibility, I like very much. By the way, also Open the Way, I think like also where I would run it the most is also land decks. Like if all your thing is land ramp, right? Then that's kind of where I would aim these type of cards with. But like Worldsoul's Rage, even more so, is like you really want to be a lands deck for me.
But I think you could also just play it fairly. I don't think it has to be lands deck specifically, just like especially in the Clash meta where everyone's playing 6+ fetch lands in their deck. Doesn't it just do work by the late game?
That's what I was gonna say. The more fetch lands you're playing, the better this card gets just as a fair card, because like if you can cast this for 4 mana and get back 2 fetch lands, that's already pretty good, even if you're sniping a Thalia or a Mother of Runes or some like utility creature. And then you have the flexibility, like Tomer said, that in the late game, if you have a ton of mana, you're gonna be able to maybe kill someone or kill the biggest thing on the battlefield. So I think it does kind of depend on my mana base. If I'm not playing fetches, then this is much less appealing to me because it's a lot harder to have the lands in my hand to get value out of it. But if I'm playing a bunch of fetches, I might have to play this card more. I've seen it so much in Standard where it's kind of been a staple in various decks in Standard. So I've seen this card a lot and it's looked good. I've just never made the connection like maybe I should be playing this in my Commander decks. Well, let's keep moving forward. Number 2 for me, I have my favorite card printed last year. I just absolutely adore this card. I actually just made a video last week on the main YouTube playing this card for Against the Odds again. And that card is Doppelgang. So Doppelgang, it's so much fun. It is blue-green in triple X. A lot of X in this one. And for each of X target permanents, you create X tokens that are copies of that permanent. So the way the math works on this, for 5 mana, you get 1 copy of 1 permanent. For 8 mana, 2 copies of 2 permanents. 11, 3 copies of 3 permanents. Once you get past 11 mana up to like 14 or 17, you probably just win the game when you cast this. If you're getting like 4 copies of the 4 best permanents, like it's very close to win the game. So Doppelgang, definitely very expensive. And if you're going to be playing this card, you'd have to be like what Tomer was saying, like a fill deck, some sort of very rampy, I'm just going to make all the mana, I'm going to draw all the cards. You need to be that style of archetype, because if you're not casting this for at least 8 mana, that's kind of like the minimum where it's like kind of acceptable. And really 11 mana is, I would say, the real sweet spot for this card. But if you're not casting it for 8 or 11 mana, it's not very good. There's just better ways of doing what this does. But once you get up to the big mana with this is just absurd because not only does it copy your permanents, it can copy your opponent's stuff. You can copy more lands. If you really get going with this, you can do shenanigans where you like copy a bunch of lands and copy an Eternal Witness, get back your Doppelgang to cast the Doppelgang again to copy more. Like, it's off the charts the value that this card can offer. So if you're like a Rite of Replication fan, this is like 2025 Rite of Replication. It does what Rite of Replication does, but just like 100 times better and 100 times sweeter. And I play a lot of big mana decks when I play Simic, and I put it in every time. It's just so much fun to resolve. I just love playing with this card.
You had me until you said start looping it. Just kill me with stuff. You have
No,
that.
no, you
have
will sit here
15
and watch
mana
my
Simic.
value, Tomer.
Just
You will
let
watch
me
my
die.
value.
You've already crushed my
Sounds
spirit. Let me
So
die.
miserable,
I mean,
but
if-
awesome.
If you want to actually
It is
dive
a
to this
fun
card,
spell.
it does work really well with the crime lands that they printed in
Yeah.
Outlaws of Thunder Junction. You can copy lands that actually deal damage, so you're generating more mana and killing your opponent. So you can even do shenanigans like that if you really have to.
Rodrigo played, I think it was your deck. That it was like a desert. It was a crime decks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he
The
built it. And
Simic
he was,
burn deck.
he was grinding it on standard on arena and stuff. And I think he
I
went
got
to
a friend-
FNM with it too.
I got
It
a
was
friend
actually
back
very
in a
fun.
standard with that deck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love
it's
that
a really
deck.
cool deck. I love this card. I hope you kill me after you cast it. Like, happy for you. Let me die.
No.
Yeah, this card
No.
rules. This card rules. It's like the ultimate modal spell. Because, like you said, you can hit your own stuff, which is probably what you want to do because you built your deck to synergize with
Yeah.
your deck. So you probably want to copy your own things. But, like, maybe your opponent's got something really juicy. That'd be kind of cool if you had. So you can. So it's the ultimate modal spell that, yeah, once you get into the higher, like 11, 14 mana range, it probably just wins you the game.
Yeah.
But it's really cool. It's either your ramp spell, it's your card draw spell, it's your finisher, it's whatever you
It
need.
does
to
it
be.
all.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Y'all are wild that you want to. Like, this is your ramp spell. You all
Yeah.
love big
Yeah.
X ramp spells, and
That's
I'm
what this
just like,
format's for, man.
You know, like
Oh
on
my
the
God.
average, like the turns. I think our Clash games were ending like turn 7, like back to back to back. I
Yeah.
just can't imagine, like, yeah, well, Doppelgang just turn 6. We'll copy a land. Woo, two, baby. Woo. Like, what?
Copy a
What's
bounce
going
land.
on? The game's over.
The
Next
bounce
turn,
land.
man. What's going on?
But think of how much mana you could have if you cast Open the Way first. Think of all the copies you could make. Or I mean
Very good
Expiration, if
card.
I cast Expiration first.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Doppelgang is sweet though, right? Being able to copy any permanent, I love that. I don't know
Just
about the
fun.
ramp part of it, but like I do love copying some nice permanents on board, whether enchantment, artifact, creature. Yeah, it's commander, right? It's like the peak commander spell, big X spell that allows you to copy nonsense.
Yeah, that's why the format exists, so we can cast these big silly
Yeah,
spells
yeah.
that don't work in other formats. But all right, let's keep moving on. Tomer, we're back around to you. Give us the next spell.
Okay. I was gonna pick a crowd pleaser, but I'm gonna go back on my own nonsense. Whir of Invention. It's back.
Please,
triple
Wait,
Tomer.
blue.
you criticized my Open
Please.
the Way ramping. Oh
Triple
my
blue.
God.
This is actually peak.
improvised.
This is
Believe it or
improvised.
not,
Triple blue
artifacts
X.
are more busted than just basic ramps. So Tomer, please.
Also, blue doesn't have something called rampant growth, free visits, Farseek. You know, they have to work a little bit. So Whir of Invention is that work. It's triple blue, X instant improvise, which means your artifacts can help cast a spell. Each artifact you tap after you're done activating mana abilities pays for 1 mana. It's unlike Convoke, it cannot pay for the colored pips. So you always have to pay triple blue. But then you can tap artifacts to help pay for the X. Search your library for an artifact card with mana value X or less, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. My friends, this card is incredibly gas. Not even people are just like, oh, obviously it's an artifact card, so you put it in artifact decks. No, sir. You put it in any blue deck. Why? Because blue, like all colors of Magic, have access to something called artifact lands, and some of them even are indestructible, which are extra fun. So instant speed, 3 mana for X equals 0. Instant speed, so you kept up your protection, your interaction, blah blah blah. You could rampant growth for 3 mana. Oh yeah, not as good as green. Blah 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 blah. We're in blue, my friends, and we did it at instant speed. Okay, there is a bonus there, and then on top of that, you can actually like tutor up other things. Like, the board needs wiping and there's an indestructible creature. I'm gonna find my Shadow Spear. I need like life gain. I'm gonna get my Shadow Spear. Or there's like a 2-drop that's like super important for my deck. Like, I don't know, Helm of Awakening or something. I don't know. You built your deck. You know what important things or artifacts in your deck. You get that instead. So it has the flexibility of on turn 3 you can use it, and then beyond that you can use it even more. And if you're an artifact deck, it's even better, obviously. And then you can, if you're in red, you got the indestructible land, you Cleansing Wildfire the land, you Rampant Growth plus also cantrip.
You had me. Stop.
Just keep going.
It's good. End it there.
Really good.
Once you start saying I'm gonna go get the artifact land, I'm like, okay,
It's in every blue deck. I swear I put it on all my blue decks.
I'm with you 90% of the way, Tomer. I
You
think
just have the Cleansing Wildfire. That's a finish line.
To quote Phil from a couple episodes ago, "Oh, what they have to do to mimic our power."
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Really, it's fine. It's busted though. God, why? Okay, just
It's
like
a
why
tutor.
green doesn't need tutors. Why would you give artifacts a tutor? Like, come on. Like,
Artifacts
that's
suck,
instant
don't you?
speed and
Come
X.
on.
Oh my god. Yeah, it's not like artifacts have a million different ways to just generate mana. I will say though, I was like, when this set came out, I bought like 50 copies of this card at 25 cents. And I was like, this card has to be good, right?
Good choice. Wait,
It turns out
$4. Okay, it's $4.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like $5. It's
$4.
like it's okay.
baby.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what,
Stonks.
that's not that
Why are you
great
still
of a
doing YouTube? Or you should be retired.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know how
But-
much you think $4.
Oh, you're on your Whir of Invention.
I mean, I'm not good at math, obviously. I'm playing Magic for a living. So,
You know
like,
what?
$4 and you bought it
You're
for
right.
25 cents? It's stonks.
I'm
can
gonna go
imagine.
sell my $4 cards and be out of here.
I will say, Tomer, you've pretty much sold me on this card from seeing you play it over the last few months, because I've seen you do your land ramp thing, which honestly it is kind of funny that we're like, open the way X3, I'd never do that, and then we're like, oh, Whir of Invention, 3 mana, get a land over.
You can play it on turn 3.
But I know it's blue. Like, I get it. Like, blue's bad at ramping, so
I think Mortgage just better than Open the Way, even if it wasn't green.
wow. I was just gonna say these things about you, Tomer, but now I'm having second thoughts. but I've seen you get lands with it. But I remember a game where you everyone was about to die and you got a Scour Glass on your upkeep and were able to use it to sweep the board. So the flexibility of having a ramp spell that can also get your Wrath or can also get your finisher if you're an artifact deck actually seems very, very good. So I think in an artifact deck for sure, this is a staple. I think it is worth it as just a blue ramp spell too. It feels so much worse than the green ramp spells, but it's blue and blue's really bad at ramping, so you do what you gotta do. I put a lot of value in not playing mana rocks. I would much rather tutor up an artifact land with Whir of Invention. So you've sold me on using this as a ramp spell.
It's
So-
better than Court of Calling. It's blue Court of Calling. They can
Make
get
him
you
stop.
a land, can get you an indestructible land, and then
We
you
need a
Cleansing
mute button.
Wildfire
Where's
the
the mute
land.
button?
Stop.
And you Cleansing Wildfire the land, and now you're just like, whoa.
Like,
All right,
Homer,
so-
you just,
so you're
you just stop saying the Cleansing Wildfire part, and I guess
Yeah.
it's most
Better
of
than
what you're
Chorus?
saying is right.
So your opening thesis, I give you an A plus. Your opening thesis, A plus, but then your essay itself, C. Like this is
Guilty.
like so sus. I don't think it's terrible. Like, you're probably running those artifact indestructible lands in your artifact deck anyway. So if you literally have nothing else to do, why not? Especially if you're just a little tight on mana. If you're like, oh, if I just could go into my next turn with one more extra mana, that's cool. I'm not saying you would never do that, but I don't know if I would ever play this outside of artifact decks, if I'm being honest. But the flexibility is really nice. I think it is cool that you have found that little bit of tech. I just think that, I don't know if you guys have realized this, but in the wake of Richard's Clash retirement, we haven't seen a farewell. We haven't seen an Ondu inversion. I'm just saying, if you just want the mana, I would say I would go back to my points of maybe the mana rocks are okay, but yeah,
There has been
It's
a
a
lot
good
less.
tutor.
all right.
Mana rock.
It's a good card, but
You can tutor up your Soul Ring.
I know the week
Yeah,
I'm
there you
bringing
go.
him back,
That's an
there's going to be
instant speed
3
Thran
farewells.
Dynamo. Or
Yeah.
not Thran Dynamo. Instant speed Worn Power Stone.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the other reason I kind of can get behind it in the blue decks is because other ramp spells I play, I'm playing like treasure maps and some of those flip artifact type stuff. So not only can I get a land, but I can snag stuff like that too, even if I'm not a full-on artifact deck, which is nice. But Krim, what do you got for us?
Okay, I have I have to figure this out because there's a few spells I want to talk about, but I think I'm going to go with probably another blue X spell that I really like. I love March of Swirling Mists. This is X and blue, and you can reduce its cost, I believe. Let me get the actual text on it because as an additional cost to cast the spell, you may exile any number of blue cards from your hand. The spell costs 2 less to cast for each card exiled this way. And then up to X target creatures phase out. This is an X spell that is kind of super versatile. It can be used it can be aggressive, it can be defensive. I can also phase your stuff out to get an attack through. I can phase my stuff out to protect it. And the main thing that my problem with X spells is more often than not, they're clunky. They sit in your hand. They're kind of awkward at a lot of early points of the games or whatever. But the one thing that's nice here is that I can leave up 1 blue mana and just exile a bunch of dead cards, right? And then that's almost a free spell for me. And it's a free protection spell. It's so mana efficient. It solves the issue of what is my fear of most X cards, where it doesn't have to be this thing where I have to have 30 mana to make use of it, right? I can just do this on 5 lands, 6 lands, and things like that. So I think this is just a very efficient... Richard's not here, right? Tempo spell. I said the T word. You said the T word.
It's Drake deck approves.
Dude, right there. That's it. Richard's not here. Tempo, baby. Tempo. Whoa!
The card I do think the card is good, but I don't really play it as a tempo card. I play it like blue clever concealment, basically. This is my I'm a blue deck. I want to be able to protect my team from a wrath. I think this is the best mono blue option. Is there anything I'm missing, Tomer, that's similar power level if I want to phase out protect in blue?
If there's a singular one, there's slip out the back,
Right. There's another one.
Right, but
the
for your
connive
word. The connive one, is that mono blue?
Yeah, it's blue as well. Change of plans. I play that as well.
Oh,
it's backup.
But you don't get the mana reduction though. It's expensive.
Right.
It is expensive.
But that's why it's number 2, right? It's number 2. It's not number 1. But it's still there, and it's a good backup.
So here's a card that no one remembers: Teferi's Veil. That doesn't go in all decks, but if you just want to keep no, in blue. But if you're a blue deck that has creatures and you want to go into combat, just on everyone else's turns, your creatures will be safe. But I really am with Krim on this just being kind of a modal spell because like you said, it can protect your board. You can phase out your opponent's blockers. You can phase out their attackers if they're swinging at you for lethal. You can just make it so that they're not swinging at you for lethal. My question is, though, and I will say that every time I see this card, it does work. And it is I have a couple in my collection. I've put it in decks occasionally. My question, though, is can you play it outside of mono blue? I feel like you can only play it in mono blue.
No.
I would do 2-color. 3-color?
2-color works?
And then obviously it depends on the 3-color deck, right? My Esper deck will lean closer to blue-white. Right. So because of that, it's just all how you build the deck. But let's say I don't even try to build towards it and cater towards it. I think 2 colors alone can do it. A good chunk of if you just exile one blue card, X is 2, right? X is 2, and that's amazing on its
that's
own
not bad.
for 1 mana.
Yeah.
I think you can play it up to 3 colors.
I think the key thing with it is also you need to draw a lot of cards.
That's
you need to be a deck that draws so my best deck with it is Edric, and it's a 2-color deck, and it makes it work. But my Edric deck draws 7 cards a turn, so it's just I'm actually bottlenecked on mana. So something like this is actually perfect because just for 1 mana, if somebody wipes the board, even better than countering it is I could just you wipe your own stuff, I'm going to phase out peace. And I'm just exiling a bunch of whatever, and I'm going to draw 7 again next turn, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
A
my
lot of blue
fairies
decks
deck
can do
does the
that.
same as you, right? It's flash, so I leave up my mana, and I love benefiting off of other people's sweepers.
It is a good point that if you're not exiling blue cards, it is kind of expensive, right? Like if you actually
it,
just have to
though?
pay the man. Well,
Is it,
compared
though?
Not
to like
unreasonable, but
Compared to
T-Pro
white
or Clever,
cards,
like
yeah.
compared to
yeah.
3 or
Sure.
4 mana, I
Yeah.
protect my whole
It's
team.
Omni-Man meet again. It's like, look how much I have to work to meet a fraction of our power.
This is why I always think it's funny when people are like, "Oh, you said blue is one of the worst colors in Commander. You guys are idiots." I'm like, well, every time we
Well, look
talk
at
about
this.
blue, it's like a bad version of another color. Like if that's everything we
No.
talk about. Oh, if it wasn't white, if it wasn't, if it wasn't green, like so.
I think
That
we
was
down-
my
think we
hot
downplay
take a
how good
million
counter
years
magic
ago, and I'm
is,
so
though.
happy that y'all understand now.
Counter
In
magic.
casual
is a good
Commander,
exception.
blue is not that good. It's a good complementary color, backup
Yes.
color.
Yeah.
One of the best
That's why
second
Simic is
colors
so
or
good.
third colors. Yeah.
It
Anyway,
was very good at
we're talking X spells, not counter spells. Morgan, what do you got for us?
All right, I feel like I'm gonna have to do some work to convince this play group to get on board with this one. But if you sort on EDH Rec most played X spells, this is the one that's right next to Open the Way. This is Pest Infestation, which is for XX green sorcery. Destroy up to X target artifacts and or enchantments. Then you create twice X 1/1 black and green pest creature tokens with when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. So the floor of this card is it's a sorcery speed like disenchant, I guess, which at 3 mana, not very good, but that will also give you a couple bodies. And the 1/1 bodies that it gives you, I think are actually really nice. That's that incidental life gain that we talked about.
They are pests.
Unless you're really living in fear of the F word. But generally speaking, their removal from the battlefield will probably be dying. They're chump blockers for you. It's going to be a little bit of incidental life gain, and it scales into the late game. If you're playing against an enchantment deck or an artifact deck, or maybe it's just like everyone has a couple that you'd like to get rid of, it scales into the late game pretty well. And also going to put a bunch of bodies on the board, which if you're a deck that can utilize those bodies can be skull clamped because they're 1/1s. They're bodies that you can convoke your Court of Calling. Like if you can make extra use of the bodies, even better. So I feel like if you're a targeted removal believer, this is gas, especially because I find that most of the targeted removal I want should go towards artifacts and enchantments anyways, because the creatures are probably going to get swept up in a board wipe anyway. So if I'm going to play targeted removal, I prefer to play the stuff that hits artifacts and enchantments. But what does the Commander Clash crew think of Pest Infestation?
This is Black Panther approved. I played this part in that deck. It's the perfect. I don't think I would play this in like every deck, but
Sure,
you're right.
Sure.
The pests are nice. And in Black Panther specifically, it synergizes with my commander so well. Like giving me creatures, pumping up my lands, it's incidental like life gain, like you had mentioned, which is very important. And yeah, card's fun. I love it in some decks, but in a unless you care about tokens and like just that kind of stuff, like would you play it there? Because I don't know if I would. I would just play something that is just a clean sweeper. Hell, I'd play the Green Season. The one that just blows up all artifacts or enchantments, right? But I don't know. I mean, is this good in non-token and creature-loving decks?
I have it in a Simic deck, that just makes a lot of mana, just as like I really like the bodies. It's the Jalriel deck that I talked about, where I played a bunch of creature lands. So on other people's turns, I probably don't have many creatures. So this also gives me chump blockers and stuff. So it's really good in that deck too.
It's also worth mentioning that, like, as much as I love Bane of Progress or Green Season, like those sweepers, some decks you don't want them because you're playing artifacts and enchantments,
Right.
and then being able to like pick off
Right.
the best 2 or 3 on the battlefield that your opponents have and keep yours is actually nice. I've never really played with this card. I didn't see any standard plan. I've never played in a commander deck, but now that I'm reading it, the fact that it makes twice X tokens, doesn't this make it just like a fine token card? It kind of scales like the best token producers, right? For each mana you put into this, you're making a 1/1 token. You got to do it in increments of 2, which I guess is awkward if you end on an even amount of mana. But like in general, you're scaling 1 token for each mana you dump into it. So you could cast this in a token deck, only blow up a couple of artifacts, and because it's up to that many artifacts, you can just make a bunch of tokens with it, right? Is this card not good? Like I'm all of a sudden like, wait, why have I not been playing this card? It seems really good.
I think it's good in token decks. Like,
You're right.
I
Like, if
need
I care about
to.
tokens, I don't think I'd
Yeah,
play
if I
it.
care
Like, I
about
don't believe in
tokens,
targeted removal enough to play it in, like, just any deck, but in a token deck.
it's also sorcery speed. If it was instant speed, I'd be like super hell yeah. Also because then you could do like surprise bodies to block.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, that
Well,
would be
it's-
sweet.
That would be cool.
Sorcery speed is so fine
For
for I think for token deck.
Crimp. I think I got it, Crimp. It's
Pretty
Meathook
efficient.
Massacre, basically. Think of all the
Well,
life you gain, and you blow up
Yeah.
things. It's basically
Yeah.
Green Meathook Massacre.
Basically.
Huh, all the X spells I like are tied to removal in some way.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
All right, let's go back to the top of the order. Last round, and this is a card that I don't play a ton. I don't think we've even seen it played on Clash a ton, but I think it needs to be shouted out if we're talking about the best X spells, because I think it serves a really important purpose in the Commander format, and that card is Walking Ballista. So Walking Ballista, double X for a 0/0, but enters with X +1/+1 counters on it. You can pay 4 mana to put a +1/+1 counter on it, but the big ability is remove a counter from it and deals 1 damage to any target. So why is Walking Ballista important? Yes, it combos with Heliod, and there's certain synergies like that, but I think the biggest reason this X spell is especially important is it's one of, if not the best payoff for any infinite mana combo. If you make infinite mana, it doesn't matter what colors you're in, this is guaranteed essentially to kill you the table. You just dump all your mana into this, you can tutor up with a Trinket Mage or whatever your synergies are for finding an artifact or a creature, dump all your mana into it, pew pew, ping down the table. So I think Walking Ballista, I don't play it in very many decks because I usually am not trying to make infinite mana or go infinite with like Heliod or something. But if you were doing any of those things, this is just, I think, the best finisher because it's colorless. You don't got to worry about any color identity issues or anything like that.
I think it is the best infinite outlet because, as you said, it's like colorless and also it's 0 mana artifact. There's just like it's just so easy to tutor up.
Yeah.
Like there are other ways of like when you have infinite mana to deal infinite damage. I remember there was like a goblin cannon or something was very cute back in the day or something like that. You could do those, but like this is like 0 mana art. It's just so much easier to actually tutor up when you need to, and it fits in more decks. So yeah, I think
And
it's
unlike a Worldsoul
goated.
Rage or something, you actually can ping everyone with it. Some you have like a Banefire, you can dump all your mana into killing one person, but this you can split up the damage around the table, which is other, I think, big upside I didn't mention.
Yeah, it's just kind of boring.
It's boring, yeah, but it's very good.
But yes, it's insanely good.
It's a multi-format all-star.
Yeah.
So, it's got love. It's got love.
All right, not much to say about Walking Ballista, but I wanted to make sure it was on the list. Tomer, what do you got for us? Last round.
Okay, so this is the last round. I have like obviously a lot of fun.
Oh,
I
I
have
know, you
like
have so many.
Wargate, Crackle of Power, Torment of Hellfire, Grand Crescendo. That also from Phil's list. Ascend from Avernus. But the
that
one
one's
that I
fun.
wanted to talk about because I remember it being like an Omega level staple when I started playing over a decade ago, and I think it's still very good. But I personally have not played it in so long, and I'm like, I forgot it existed, and I'm wondering maybe it's time to bring it back out. It's Genesis Wave. Genesis Wave. Oh my god, it's been so long I forgot the text. There we go. It's triple green X, sorcery. Reveal the top X cards from your library and put any number of permanent cards with mana value X or less from among them onto the battlefield. Then put all cards revealed this way that weren't put onto the battlefield into your graveyard. So this card is like one of the best cards you ever see if you're like in top deck mode or whatever in a green like rampy style deck. Like this is the card that just like Uno reverses the table. You vomit out like your library onto the battlefield. It's like a super Omega level finisher, just like when you have 8 mana or whatever that you could dump into this. It gets a lot worse if you're like Spell Slinger or something. Like you need to be permanent heavy. I think you want to have like at least like 70 permanents, ideally like 80, like as close to 90 permanents in your deck for Genesis Wave to work. And I remember I ran this a lot in a lot of decks, and now I just don't anymore. I was wondering, what about you guys? What do you guys think about this card?
So I think the reason that it's not played as much in Commander anymore is we've fixed the problem of colors not being able to draw cards. Like, you're right. When you see this and you're in top deck mode or close to top deck mode, oh, it feels so good. But it just doesn't happen very much anymore. Like at this point, you can make absurd amounts of mana. You can draw all your cards. So I feel like maybe that's part of why it doesn't get played as much. with that said, it probably should get played more than it does get played, because you're probably going to hit a decent amount of stuff, and then anything else, it's not going back into your deck. Some of these effects are like put at the bottom of your library in random order. That was going to your graveyard. A lot of decks can utilize their graveyard. So even if it's like, oh, X wasn't high enough to get this now, I can get it back later. Like, that's kind of nice. Yeah, I feel like it should probably get played more than it does.
Isn't it more than card draw though? Like you also like imagine if you like casted X equals 8 and then you put like
Oh yeah, that would be
I don't know
insane.
like 16 mana worth of permanents onto the battlefield or something like that. Isn't that like it's like
that would be insane.
I think that's the only real. I love this card. I think Genesis Wave's great. I also have had the Tomer experience where I feel like I used to play it a lot and I haven't played it in a long time and I haven't thought about it. Like, I haven't made an intentional choice to not play Genesis Wave. Just over the years, I stopped putting it in my decks as much. Maybe Morgan's right, and we've gotten more Rishkar expertises returned to the Wild Speakers, and maybe that's like replaced it for me without me even realizing it. But I think the card's still really good. The only downside is you need a lot of mana. Like, this is, you can't really cast this early game, right? You can't cast this for 5 mana or 6 mana even. It's almost like a Doppelgang where you really need to be getting up to like 8, 9, 10, 11 mana to realistically put everything into play with it. So it is very much a finisher. I think it's a really strong finisher, and in some ways it's gotten better. You can it works really well with splunking, since the lands that you hit will come into play on tap, so you can use them right away to play even more things that turn. So there's a lot of shenanigans you can do with this card. I've mostly seen it with elves. What are you gonna say, Morgan?
Well, because it's any permanent, it's actually, I think, in certain decks goes up in value. Like, there's a lot of green cards that will find a land to put on the battlefield or find a creature and put it onto the battlefield. But because this is any permanent, enchantment decks really like it. It's not super common, but there are artifact decks that are in green. So it does go up in value in certain decks as well if you care about those specific permanent types as well. So
the lands also enter untapped too. You don't need spelunking for it, no?
Oh, well, I stand corrected. I don't even
Unless
need
it's a
spelunking.
tap land.
No, it's a good. Oh yeah, maybe that's what I was thinking. But that is a good point. But yeah, I feel like I should probably play Genesis Wave more often. Where are you at with this, Krim? Now that you're a green mage.
This is the classic commander finisher, though, right? Like the old school, just EDH or whatever. This is what you saw. This is what green was working towards every time. And I actually think that it's just not as efficient as a lot of the win cons you have now in green. I think that's why you don't see it as much. Morgan's right in that we've kind of solved the card draw issue in green. So, we just need now a way to close the game. And I think for how much mana you want to put into this, green players just have it better now when it comes to closers.
I also think
you Doppelganger Finale of Devastation or something.
Yeah. And I think Villainous Wealth hurt it a little bit because, it's not the same colors, so you can't play Villainous Wealth in every deck because it's Sultai. But in a game of Commander, it's funnier to Genesis Wave your opponent's deck. So if I have the choice, I would rather Genesis Wave my opponent's deck just for the memes than do my own deck sometime. But Krim, what do you got for round 3?
You know what? I think I'm gonna go across the color pie here into green, which is probably the best X ramp spell that y'all just don't bring up. It's Awakening the Woods. So I mean, come on. How is Awakening the Woods? Okay, if you ignore the price tag of it, obviously it's kind of pricey. I don't know how much it is now, but it's an X green sorcery, create X 1/1 green forest dryad land creature tokens. How many token doublers do we have now? How many things say destroy non-land? Dryad Arbor, is you can tutor that one up, and just Dryad Arbor alone is annoying to a lot of people. Not because of the visual UX of the card, but I'm talking about the way it plays. Why not just spawn a ton of them? This is an X spell that gives you bodies, and those bodies ramp.
It's landfall triggers.
Oh, it is landfall triggers.
No, that's the best use, I think, of this card.
Landfall.
It's insane in landfall.
Like Tatiova decks or something.
Oh, yeah. If you're doing Omnath, Tatiova shenanigans, just
Black
making
Panther.
it to the lands as Black Panther, then it's absurd. My problem with it is just a ramp spell is what it actually says is create X mana dorks, right? And I already
Yes.
try to avoid playing mana dorks because I'm afraid they're going to get swept up. And in some ways, this is even worse because with like Llanowar Elves, you can argue, oh, well, I'm going to play it early. I'm going to get value out of it for turn. Sure, it's going to die, but I already did this thing. This is more of a late game spell. So by the time you're casting this, people are going to have the mana to theoretically Wrath before they even lose Summoning Sickness. So it's just a pure ramp spell with no synergies. I'm kind of meh on it. But if I got like landfall synergies or something, I think this card's very good.
Yeah, I think in certain decks it's insane. Like the Tatiova landfall kind of decks, or my Jalriel deck has the it cares about when creature lands hit people because you draw cards. This could draw you a bunch of cards if it comes back around. If your deck consistently has haste enablers, then this kind of only costs 2 mana. If you're that Gruul commander that basically turns your mana dorks into finishers. So there are decks where this is like really, really sweet, but just like fairly, man, it's so risky. Like
I don't know.
I
what
don't
deck
hate mana
doesn't
dorks
have a
the
way
way.
to close at this though. This
I
is
think
a
landfall. I'm on
if it doesn't-
landfall strategy.
It doesn't. If your deck consistently has haste enablers, then yeah, this is kind of a finisher / just a way to keep ramping into your finishers. But
what about
if you
white?
don't consistently, huh?
What about in white? Because then you have something to you can use these to convoke, and it's not hard. You just leave 2 mana up, and you protect your board if you need to. If I'm in white, I will always have some form of like a mass board protection, right? I go heavy on that. I have more mass board protection than sweepers. And in green and white, come on, you can protect your board.
But I think Tomer's right though that like the token doublers are kind of overrated, but it depends on what the tokens are that you're doubling. Like if you're just doubling a bunch of 1/1s that don't do anything for you right away, it's kind of like okay. It's not the most exciting thing to be doubling if you're doubling tokens. So I think that's another thing as well. Is like, yeah, it's probably pretty good in token decks, but is it the most exciting token that you could be doubling? So I don't know.
How has it felt in Black Panther, Krim?
Oh, it's absurdly nuts,
It's really
right?
good there, yeah.
Because,
I
well,
mean,
this is definitely catered towards Black Panther. That's why I just love this card. It's so good in there.
I feel like that's how Krim judges green spells, by how strong they are with Black Panther
Yeah.
specific.
Is it playable
like,
in a
how good
Marvel
are they in my Marvel
Yeah.
deck? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Last card, Morgan. Take us home.
All right, finishing it off with a real simple one. This is Pull from Tomorrow, which is a blue instant, X, blue, draw X cards, then discard a card. Now, there are a lot of cards that we could sub in place of Pull from Tomorrow. There's like Blue Sun Zenith, there's Stroke of Genius, there's lots of X draw spells in blue. I really like Pull from Tomorrow, though, because it's instant speed, it only requires 2 blue pips, and the discarding a card. Bottom line is, if you draw a decent amount of cards off of it and you discard a card, whatever, you probably don't have the time or the mana to use all those cards anyway, so going down the card you're least likely to use is not a big deal. But in certain decks, that's actually kind of cool that you're putting something in your graveyard. Some cards, maybe you're putting your reanimation target into your graveyard or something like that. So Pull from Tomorrow is, at least to me, in the kinds of decks I like to play, my personal favorite of the blue X draw spells.
Speaking of cards, not this card in specific, but I feel like blue X spells, almost like Genesis Wave, is another group of cards that I used to play a ton, like Blue Sun Zenith and Brain Geysers, like 10 years ago when we first started playing. I don't play them nearly as much anymore, but I do think Pull from Tomorrow is probably the best of them. I also like Finale. Finale is kind of worse because it's sorcery speed, but I like that if you cast it for enough, it gives you no max hand size, which is nice in like Simic or whatever. But I think this is the one that I play the most often. If I play a blue card draw spell, and exactly for what Morgan said, like discarding a card when you draw a ton of cards isn't really that big of a downside, especially since you might be discarding the hand size anyway if you cast this for a big enough amount of mana. Plus, you probably have a useless land or maybe some way to get value out of it. So yeah, I think this is just the best of the X blue card draw spells at this point.
I mean, I still think I have a soft spot for Sphinx's Revelation, but I guess that's
happy
blue,
and
right?
white. That's still good,
but
though. I like the life.
I think in blue, I still like Blue Suns more, just because the ability to use it early for like, yeah, it sounds funny, but I will just use it as tip for like 2, right? Which is 5 mana, draw 2. And then it shuffles back in, which is nice. But most importantly, we all know it's also a win con. And that's why I really like Blue Sun Zenith. So,
I mean,
whereas Pull from
yeah.
Tomorrow, it's
Pull
only
from tomorrow, you have
drawing.
to target yourself, right?
Yeah, you
I
have to
mean-
draw these cards.
That's true. That is true. But I think that's very deck specific, right? It's kind of like, Silent Blood can actually kill my opponent. But I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, that happens once every 100 games. But yes, Silent Blood can kill your opponent. I know.
But in mono blue, think about how much excess mana you can make, right? If I'm just playing
If you're
one
high
color,
tiding and yeah, I guess that's true.
I go Nykthos, I have High Tide. And then you have Seth who draws like every chance. he can
I
get,
just kill myself.
right?
Yeah.
Like there's no way you won't be able to mill one person out.
Oh yeah, build me out for sure. That is a given. What do you think of it, Tomer? Where are you at with these blue X spells and Pull from Tomorrow?
I don't like. I remember there was a time where I used to play these cards, but I just feel like when I want to draw cards, I want to draw more cards than the mana I spent to cast it. And I do like that it's in speed, but I don't remember the last time I ever ran these cards, honestly.
I think
But you put your reanimation target in the graveyard. Oh, that's so cool.
instant speed is really what makes it. I think the sorcery speed ones are generally very sketchy at this point. Like, it's very hard to tap out with like 10 mana, 12 mana during your main phase, and then you're definitely discarding the hand size, blah, 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 blah. But I think being instant speed does really improve Pull from Tomorrow in specific. So I think that, and I guess Blue Suns as well has that upside, right? Blue Suns is an instant. So I think the instant speed ones are the best of them.
I think when I want to run like those 5+ mana blue spells that are instant speed that can draw a card, like one of the first ones that come to mind that I still run a decent amount is like Mystic Confluence, where it's like, well, I'm keeping up 5 mana in blue, so it can double as a counter spell. It could double. I think it like bounces and then also could like draw 3 cards if you need to, and that's like 5 mana, draw 3. It's basically the same thing, right? Like, sure, you can't just like High Tide and like dump all your mana into it.
Right.
It's probably
For
less
5
good
mana,
in like
similar.
it's less good in like a sim. Like if you're in a Simic and you want to just draw a lot of cards at instant speed, I think this is good. But yeah.
Blue X spells, Pull from Tomorrow. I still like that one. I think that one in specific is pretty good. But
I just think of
anyway-
green houses better. It's like, Return the
Yeah.
Wild Spikers, 5 mana, draw 20 cards. Or
Wait,
yeah.
wasn't that my
speed.
argument about Whir of Invention versus Open the Way an hour ago when we started?
What?
the
No,
podcast?
you're spending less mana for like if I want to draw one.
Yeah,
if
but
I
it's
want to ramp
blue
out
and
one
blue
land.
sucks it. Blue sucks it things.
I wanna-
So we
if I
play
wanna
Whir
ra-
of Invention to ramp,
Open-
even though he wouldn't
Open the
green.
Way versus Whir of Invention. How much mana do you have to spend to get one card?
That's you know I'm willing to pay the price. But anyway, everyone, that brings us to the end of our Ranking Expels podcast. So what's your favorite Expel? Let us know in the comments, and we will be back next week to talk even more about Commander. Not sure what yet. We'll figure it out. But until then, have an amazing week, and this is the crew signing out.